You like practical hands-on video walkthroughs? Then check out the link in the description below and hit the subscribe button. Now let's go! Now let's talk about working with servers, logs, and especially port forwarding in Docker. And I want to show you a couple of examples that are easy to understand and easy to follow. Let's start with the most simplistic thing, which is docker run-d httpd. Now, the httpd image is an Apache image, and -d is running it in detached mode. And if you're running it, then it will download this httpd image, and then it will run it in the background. The image is downloaded, and all we get is this long hash. And if you're doing a docker ps, then you will see that the container ID is running, and there is a port 80 on TCP, and it has a name because we didn't give it a name. Now, if I'm opening a browser now and I'm going to localhost port 80, which should work, then let's see what is going on. Okay, I have a browser here, localhost port 80, and let's see, it's loading, site can't be reached. So why is that? But I thought it's having this port 80 here. Why is this not working? All right, let's just do a little bit of digging here. The first thing is maybe we just want to go inside this container. Docker exec and then interactive with the terminal, and then we have the container ID, which is in this case 90, and then we want to start bin bash, and then we are in the container. And now let's just run a curl localhost 80. Curl is not found. Let's just quickly do get update. Then upget install curl. Okay, now let's see, curl localhost. We see, whoa, there's the HTML. It says it works. That is strange. Let's get out of this container and let's run docker logs and then the container ID, which is again 90. We see there's one request to the logs, one request to our Apache, which is from our curl, but the other request seems the Apache never found anything about requesting a browser the site. So that is strange. So let's just attach to the docker logs with -f. It will keep it open. And let's see what is happening. Let's see if we can actually open our browser again and just reload with Control-R. Just press Control-R, type in reload, but nothing is happening in the background. Somehow our container doesn't get the request from our browser, which is strange. Now let me just close these logs here with Control-C, and let's do a docker inspect, and then the ID, the container ID, and then we see all the container settings here. And one of the container settings is especially interesting, which is over here. Let me go up to the port bindings. There are no port bindings here. The port bindings are empty. So the host cannot access any of the ports or anything really in the container. And we have to do port binding manually. So let's just completely remove the container, and I'm going to ungracefully remove my container here. I'm just gonna kill it. Just check if the container is gone. And then we are going to run the same container, docker run-d -p. And that is the command that we actually want. Let me just write it down and then explain it to you. -p is here for port binding or port forwarding, and then you say you want a specific port on the host bound to a port inside the container. So if the container is exposing a port 80, then you want to bind a specific port on your host to a port on your container. For example, if I type in localhost 8080, then this will automatically forward everything to the port 80 inside my container. So if I'm going to start this now, then it's again starting a container in the background, and let's run docker ps, and then you see here in the ports that 0000, the localhost anything is bound with the port 8080 to the port 80 inside my container. So if I'm opening this now here, localhost, not 80, but 8080, then I see it works from my container. So if you're doing docker inspect for C now, which is my container ID, my new one, then it should be over here, port bindings, and then I see the port 80 in my container is bound to the host port 8080, and I actually can also see down here inside my network settings that the ports 80 TCP from my container are bound to the host port 8080. This was empty before. Okay, now if you still have this index PHP here, then you can do another thing. You can download a PHP container with Apache. Let me just remove this container over here, which was docker ps, what was it? Docker rm-f4c. Let's completely remove this and instead run docker run-d-p 8080 in my host to 80 in my container, and then we are binding the current directory to our var www.html, and then we are running php 7.2-apache, which is an Apache image having PHP installed, and the document root is in var www.html, and we are doing a port forwarding from port 8080 on the host to port 80 inside the container, and it's downloading a couple of more images here because of the union file system, which is just like an onion wrapping everything inside or on top of each other, and then it's executing this image. We see when we are doing docker ps, then you see that Docker is running and that our container is forwarding this port. So let's just open it, and you see our test text here. When I open this here in an editor, and I'm going to change my test text to something else, and I reload, then it changes this too, because from the host it is automatically mounted into my container, and there the Apache picks it up, parses it through PHP, and outputs it into my browser. Now let me just remove this container again, not very gracefully. I could stop it, actually docker stop cb, this would be the graceful stop, takes a while, and then I see that the container is still here. I could restart it again, but in this case I really just want to remove the container, docker ps-a, and the container is gone. Again, you find this exercise as a download attached to this lecture as a resource download, and I kind of suggest you run through this. And I want to thank you for watching this lecture, and I see you in the next one, where we are already going to start talking about Docker files. All right, I'll see you in the next lecture.